Yep, I also just spent 2.5 hours removing the front engine cradle, so aka the front subframe. Basically, I thought I'd do a quick video. It's not going to be the most exciting video ever. The reason I'm doing a video is because I couldn't find anything on the internet that told you about UK cars, STIs, WRXs. It's all like random, random other Subaru cars, all the rear ends. So yeah, hence this average video. So yeah, reason I got this thing out is because it's covered in corrosion, hardly any paint left on it, and all the corners, all the edges. Whilst you can't tell it here because it's dark, they're all super skanky, and it got marked up as MOT as well, MOT suggestion. So first thing to do, obviously, is jack the car up securely on the sills. I always use rubber sill blocks so you don't damage your sills. Obviously, remove the wheels. You need to get the car up, a bit of height, and it doesn't have to be too high. And then, let me just get the light on the subject quickly. So, excuse me. I won't bother editing this. I'm not interested in doing all that sort of stuff. So, underneath the car. So, to do the job, so not too difficult. Obviously, I've chosen to use this, which was what I brought for the rear end of my car, so I could take the rear subframe off, the rear gearbox off. So why not use it again? And it's absolutely spot on. You can use an engine crane or an engine bar, but this one here is perfect, and I've got it as well. So you have to support the engine, obviously, when you remove this. So procedure for my car is remove the plastic cover, which I had on mine. It's held on by some plastic clips and bolts. I'd already removed mine, so I'd already replaced the nuts and bolts, so it's all fine. Then remove the U-shaped frame as well. Some cars might not have that because you don't actually necessarily need to have it. It's an additional feature for UK cars. I'd just say, again, I'd already taken one off, powder coated it, etc. So that came off super easy. Right, so once underneath here, the general procedure is it's not too bad. So you remove the tie rod ends, remove the bolt for the anti-roll bar, and then you remove the bolt here. It comes out easy, and then you remove the 2 bolts at the back of this aluminium A-arm. So you loosen off one bolt a lot, and then you remove the other bolt. So I left in the outer bolt, which is just there, and remove the inner bolts, and that lets you basically be able to swing this A-arm down and over a bit to drop down the engine cradle. Then there's a cover on the opposite side of this, forehead by 412mm roughly. You can remove that, and then you can basically drop the anti-roll bar out and out of the way. Then you work on the then obviously this is what you see from underneath here. So yeah, so the bolt, so that cover goes onto these bolts here. And that's where the anti-roll bar goes in here somewhere. And then you remove or heavily loosen the 2 clamps here that hold the steering rack in. Don't remove them fully, but just leave one bolt in basically to remove it. And then you have to then get, it's fiddly, but basically around the section here you can then get access to the 2 hydraulic lines, which are basically, I think, a 17mm and a 14mm. You kind of have to access a 70mm from the top, and you can get in there with a spanner and a torch. It's a bit fiddly, but it's once you literally cracked it, they tend to undo a finger. And the bottom one there, you can see it sort of through the edge of the steering rack, and that's a 14mm, and that comes up easy. The top tip is to drain as much of the power steering fluid out of the bottle as you can beforehand, otherwise it all drains out. I drained all mine out into a milk and a 5 pint milk tub, so no drama, but I didn't know I had to do that. People said to put a rag down. No, you need to do more than that. It drains out all its contents. So yeah, that's fine. And once you've done that, you can then loosen off the final bolt, and then you can carefully drop down steering rack. Oh, sorry, there's one more thing. There's also a pinch bolt at the top here of the steering rack, which is literally 13mm bolts. You can turn the steering by hand once you're underneath it, and then just use two long extensions to loosen off the 13mm, pull the 13mm bolt out, and then do this, and then the steering rack comes off nice and easy. And then when you're underneath there, you then got the 2 engines rubber mounts bolt nuts here, so loosen up, so take off those 2, one each side. That's fine. And then I think that was it. Yes. So then you support the engine, so just jack it up so it touches, and then a little bit extra just to lift it slightly. And then I put a just a regular hydraulic jack underneath the engine cradle, just literally just resting in place basically, and then you loosen these two here, which 290 mils, which is obviously naturally be super tight. So with all of these ones, you tend to use a long torque wrench, and obviously that makes light work of all this. Just a torque wrench, normally with a for example, a 5-inch extension, for example, you might need to, but make short work of that. That's fine. Once you've done those two, do the other two, and then basically then you just lower the jack, and then the cradle just drops down. Pull it out of the way. Job done. And that's it there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to obviously remove this one here, and just remove some of these anti-roll bar ones which I just left in. Get it all empty and bare, and then get that blasted. And then you also have the other two plates related to it, which again you take off. When you're getting the anti-roll bar out, which are just held by, say these are held by 4 nuts. I forgot to mention, easy peasy, and 4 bolts for that. So that all comes off. That's going to get blasted as well. And then obviously the steering rack's in the garage, so I've covered that over. I'll clean it up, and I've obviously blocked over the where the fluid goes in to make sure there's no dirt and debris gets in there. But yeah, otherwise, honestly, it's a DIY job. You'll find if you haven't taken it apart before, all the bolts will probably be super tight. So again, use the long torque wrench. Just take your time. Don't round off the nuts. Don't fuck up the nuts, and then the whole thing should come out fine. And yeah, highly recommend one of those babies off Amazon. About 50 quid for a Draper, transmission lift. Cool, nice one. Cheers.